Bill?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I therefore beg to move that the Affordable Housing Bill, National Assembly Bill number 75 of 2023, be now read a second time. Honorable Speaker, maybe for the comfort of Honorable Junet, I will repeat once again that this bill, as moved, concerns counties, and if approved by the House, will find its way to the Senate. Honorable Speaker, allow me to begin by first thanking the chair of the Housing Committee, the Honorable Ngeno, who is here, the Honorable Kimani Kuria, our chair of the Finance Committee, who, together with their members, their 30 members, Honorable Speaker, spent a considerable amount of their recess time going around 19 out of our 47 counties in a very extensive public participation that they conducted throughout the country, listening and consulting a wide cross-section of stakeholders and technical experts by way of public hearings, as I mentioned, in 19 counties, Honorable Speaker, including the county of Nairobi and in Parliament. Honorable Speaker, this committee has done a commendable work, and they have indeed, as I mentioned when responding to the point of order, done a lot of justice to this bill. Honorable Speaker, bills as proposed are mere legislative proposals and therefore require the input of our committees. And that's why I take a lot of time to thank the committee, because they have done a lot of invaluable work. They consulted very many experts, from experts in the housing sector to finance experts, and even ordinary Kenyans, Honorable Speaker, who are potential beneficiaries of the housing, this housing agenda and the housing bill, and including, Honorable Speaker, potential contributors to the fund. And we saw Kenyans coming out to agree with the court that indeed the levy, the housing levy, as it were in the Finance Act, had discriminated against some who want to contribute. And I was impressed when I saw on TV Kenyans coming out to say that they want to contribute to this fund because they understand its input in our national development and in the job creation endeavor of our country. Appreciating, Honorable Speaker, that there are millions of young Kenyans across the country who have no jobs. Kenyans from many walks of life, including people who are in self-employment, Honorable Speaker. I saw some market traders. I don't remember whether they were from Karioko, the chair finance or chair housing would have reminded me, who appeared before the committee and asserted that they would want to actually find a mechanism to be able to contribute to the fund, not only to be able to access housing as a constitutional right under Article 43 of our Constitution, but also to offer other young Kenyans and other unemployed Kenyans an opportunity to access job opportunities. Honorable Speaker, we saw many professionals, architects, engineers, lawyers, accountants who appeared before the committee, the two committees, contending that the job creation agenda that comes with this housing agenda is not just what has been said in political rallies and in funerals, that it's about what we call watu ya mkono in construction sites and fundis. That, Honorable Speaker, architects, quantity surveyors, engineers from civil, electrical to water engineers are accessing huge opportunities in jobs that are being created by this agenda. And many Kenyans express the desire and the need to have a legal framework, Honorable Speaker, that would actualize this housing agenda. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, if you go to the objects of the bill under Article 3, one, it is envisaged, Honorable Speaker, that this bill, once it becomes an act, will have three key objectives. One is to give effect to Article 43 of our Constitution, 43(1)(b), on the right to accessible and adequate housing. And, Honorable Speaker, for members like Honorable Junet, who took time last night to go through the committee's report, they will see the committee has indeed also proposed an amendment to include the words to reasonable standards of sanitation, so that we don't just have provide affordable housing, but housing that has, in the words of our Constitution, reasonable standards of sanitation. Two, Honorable Speaker, the second objective is to impose a levy to facilitate the provision of affordable housing. And three, is to provide a legal framework for the implementation of the housing programs and projects. Honorable Speaker, this is one of the areas that the courts found wanting in what was passed during the Finance Act. The court did advise at least two important things. That one, they lacked a legal framework, and that is what now this new proposed legislation intends to do, to create that legal framework for the implementation of the affordable housing programs and projects. That now, under this act, Honorable Speaker, will have that legal framework that the court found as not having had one. Although, Honorable Speaker, I had a problem with that particular finding of the court, as much as, Honorable Speaker, I don't want to get into issues that could be sub judice. Because, Honorable Speaker, when we talk about a legal framework on implementation of a government program, Honorable Speaker, the Appropriations Act that we passed, Honorable Speaker, created that legal framework on how you appropriate funds to implement government projects, including the housing agenda. Honorable Speaker, as I said, I don't want to get into legalese that would be on the verge of getting into sub judice issues. We leave it to the lawyers in the Court of Appeal. Honorable Speaker, the second issue that was raised by the courts was the issue of the levy that we are creating under the second object, the imposition of a levy to facilitate the provision of affordable housing. The courts did find that the levy that was imposed under the Finance Bill or the Finance Act of 2023 was, in their words, discriminatory and unconstitutional in the sense that it only levied this levy against or on people who are salaried. And, Honorable Speaker, in this new law, we have now made it possible for even people who are not salaried to be able to contribute. And, Honorable Speaker, as I said, I was impressed to see very patriotic Kenyans coming out before the committee saying that they actually not only want to be beneficiaries of the houses that will be built, but they want to be contributors to the fund. They want to pay their fair share, just like those people who are employed or who are salaried. And, Honorable Speaker, we must continue to encourage these very patriotic Kenyans who have come out to say that they want to contribute to this fund. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, if you look at, for those who cared to go through the committee's report, they will see also that under Clause 4, where that's providing for the imposition of the affordable housing levy at the rate of 1.5% of the gross salary of an employee or gross income of a person, and that person is a legal person, so therefore could be an individual or a business entity or a company. Honorable Speaker, there existed a lacuna in this Clause 4 of the bill where companies or employers who have already deducted and remitted a matching amount of the levy for its employees were again subjected to pay the levy again on their own gross income. And, Honorable Speaker, the committee has made certain recommendations that will cure this lacuna, that if you are collecting as an employer, then you again will not be levied the same on your gross income. The committee also, Honorable Speaker, has provided safeguards in the amendments on that question that the courts did ask on whether the levy was discriminatory, if it is only levied on people who are salaried. The amendment that the committee is proposing, Honorable Speaker, has cured this matter in Clause 4 again by providing that apart from the salaried persons, in Clause 4A, the gross income of a person in the informal sector under Clause 4B is also subjected to this levy. However, Honorable Speaker, the bill was silent also on the mode of collection of this by whoever will be the collector of this levy, and in this case, KRA, Honorable Speaker. And the committee again has sought to cure this. And in the amendments that will be coming during the third reading, the committee will be introducing an amendment that will allow the use of the provision of the Tax Procedures Act of 2015 to apply also for this levy, such that the same way, Honorable Speaker, for income tax, that for us who are employed and salaried, Honorable Speaker, we pay as we want. And this is deducted by our employers and remitted by the 9th of every month to KRA. But for people who are self-employed or people who are in the informal sector, Honorable Speaker, on a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis, they do their installment taxes, and they have the options whether you want to pay installment tax, whether you want to pay advance tax, whether you want to pay your tax at the end of the year. Honorable Speaker, now it will be an obligation that every Kenyan who is earning an income contributes to this fund, and through the Tax Procedures Act of 2015, they will be required then to make their tax returns to KRA and show how they will pay their housing levy, Honorable Speaker. This, in a way, Honorable Speaker, let me, for good manners, take this opportunity to thank the courts, because they have actually made it possible now for government to collect more money. Government initially was to collect only from the salaried people, but we shall now be able to collect more money. In a fund that was envisaged to collect probably 63 billion shillings, we should now be able to collect more money and therefore be able to roll out more projects across the country in all our 47 counties and in all our 290 constituencies. And Honorable Speaker, I will want to take this opportunity to encourage those members of parliament who have not complied with the memoranda or the letter that was sent by the Principal Secretary in charge of housing to propose sites for construction of this affordable housing in your constituencies. Honorable Speaker, I am a beneficiary of this project in Kikuyu, and I can tell you, in a project where we are doing about 755 or 757 houses between us and our neighbors, Kabete constituency, we are projecting to employ close to 2,000 people on site directly and many others indirectly, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, you remember I was with you the other day when we passed by a site in Kakamega town. And you remember what those young men and young ladies at that site told us, that we should go and tell those people in Nairobi who are talking ill of these housing projects to know that that is where they are earning their daily bread. That is where they are educating their children from. That, Honorable Speaker, the suppliers of steel in these housing projects, Honorable Speaker, suppliers of cement, timber traders, Honorable Speaker, across this country today are not able to satisfy the demand for timber. I have a friend who trades in timber from Congo. He's telling me they are now struggling to get transport to transport timber from as far as Congo, Tanzania, Honorable Speaker, because of the huge demand of timber, of marine boats, of steel in this country today, Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the factory that His Excellency the President commissioned last year, but one, in Mariakani, in the coast, and those members from the coast, the factory owned by, I think it's Devki Steel Mills. That factory today, Honorable Speaker, is unable to satisfy the demand for steel today in this country, Honorable Speaker. Courtesy of these projects, Honorable Speaker. And it's not just about steel, cement, timber, and all the other auxiliary items that get into construction, Honorable Speaker. The huge opportunities that exist in job creation, Honorable Speaker, is what each one of us today here ought to be speaking to. There is none of us, Honorable Speaker, back in our constituencies who is not confronted by many young men and women looking for job opportunities. Many of them qualified, Honorable Speaker. Last night I was speaking to a young man called Kevin Omondi Onyango. And I got a video, Honorable Speaker, a young man from Migori. A friend of mine forwarded to me a video of that young man that he had recorded himself. A first-class honors with a bachelor's of economics degree, a CPAK, who is doing manual jobs in the EPZ in Kitengela, Honorable Speaker, and I have an appointment with that young man next week, Tuesday, to see how we can help him, Honorable Speaker, because it's not just enough to talk about people and jobs, but we must be able to do something to create jobs for them. It is opportunities for young men like Kevin Omondi, who can work as accountants in cement factories in Athi River, or steel factories, Honorable Speaker, or even become very good accountants for the contractors who are doing these housing projects that we must speak today. We must speak to today. Honorable Speaker, I want to invite all of us, including my good friend Opio and I am not sure he is here to provide a list of probable sites in Ugunja where housing projects can be actualized. I know the Honorable Junet in Suna East is very keen to ensure that there is a housing project in Suna East, because it will create hundreds, if not thousands, of job opportunities. Urbanization today, Honorable Speaker, will not be possible without an agenda like this in housing, Honorable Speaker. My good friends, Honorable Pio and I, and the others that we are in the National Dialogue Committee, including the Honorable Amina from Malindi, will tell you that economists of repute in this country, and including international economic institutes, appeared before the National Dialogue Committee and told us that for a country whose economy was in the doldrums that we found our economy in at the end of 2022, Honorable Speaker, for us to be able to get our economy working again, we must be able to massively invest and aggressively invest in huge. And I think, I can't remember, I think it was a gentleman from SID who told us that there is no other way of getting out of the economic mess that we are in other than a program that will aggressively and massively invest in huge infrastructural development. What greater opportunity, Honorable Speaker, than this housing agenda to raise money through the housing levy and through the housing fund to massively invest in infrastructural investments that will not only create an opportunity for millions of Kenyans to have affordable homes. Affordable homes, Honorable Speaker, as is required of us by Article 43 of our Constitution, but also homes with proper, and in the words, Honorable Speaker, of our Constitution, it says, with reasonable standards of sanitation. Reasonable standards of sanitation, Honorable Speaker, is what is happening in these projects, Honorable Speaker, at least even under the social housing. Even the studio units have a kitchenette, they have a reasonable toilet and bathroom, and, Honorable Speaker, even people in Kibra, people in Korogosho, people in Mathare will now have decent housing where they don't have to go through the indignity of having to use flying toilets, Honorable Speaker. We will give them dignified settlements where they can live as human beings. Honorable Speaker, not just people in our slum areas, even officers like our policemen and women. And I have had critics of this bill, Honorable Speaker, asking why we're not building houses for our police. And I see many, even members of parliament, Honorable Speaker, speaking on TV stations and asking why are we not building houses for our policemen and women. And Honorable Speaker, we are the same people in this house who changed policy on how we provide housing for our policemen and women. Members know today they are not even able to build housing, staff quarters for policemen because the police were given a housing allowance. But in this bill, Honorable Speaker, through institutional housing, and I'm glad the committee, in one of the amendments, I think to clause 3, Honorable Speaker, to clause 2, they have proposed, Honorable Speaker, to include institutional housing. And institutional housing, Honorable Speaker, now will come to cater for a very special category of Kenyans. Students, Honorable Speaker, in our public universities. I think it's the Vice Chancellor of Technical University of Nairobi. Is it called Technical University of Nairobi? Former Kenya, Technical, Technical University of Kenya, the former Kenya Polytechnic. The Vice Chancellor, when speaking to the committee, was speaking to the horrible quarters that students are having to go through. And these students, Honorable Speaker, are our own sons and daughters who come from our villages, our own constituents, who come probably from very decent homes. But a student from Siaya, for instance, who has no other relative in Nairobi, is admitted to the Technical University of Kenya and has no other source of accommodation other than going to get some shack on a road reserve in South B, Honorable Speaker, with no sanitation at all. That student will not even have the dignity to live in a good city like Nairobi, and even will not be able to perform well in school, whereas my child and your child, Honorable Junet, they will be able to move from our houses in Lavington and Karen and be able to commute every day. On the back left of our V8, dropped at Technical University and back home, we have an opportunity now to make sure that that child who comes from Suna East has affordable accommodation in Nairobi through the institutional housing. We must give an opportunity. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Junet says he lives in South B, not in Lavington. And he knows I know him, and he knows me. Honorable Speaker, I was speaking to not to Honorable Junet, but to that Suna East constituent, who will come from Suna East, have an opportunity through institutional housing to get decent student accommodation that has been developed under this program. That child will be able to graduate from the Technical University of Nairobi or Nairobi University, or whichever university in the city, and be able to access social housing and buy a studio unit or a one-bedroom unit in South B, South C, or in Pangani, or even in Kikuyu, and become not just a house owner, but now a person who is living in a dignified house and a person who can begin to build his own wealth rather than imagining how they'll go back to the village, subdivide their land, and build on a 40 by 50 or 40 by 100 plot. Honorable Speaker, I know I could belabor so many points on this bill, but I want to say this bill, Honorable Speaker, gives us that opportunity that we have all been yearning for. That opportunity not just to provide affordable, decent housing to millions of Kenyans who lack, in line with Article 43 of our Constitution, but an opportunity, Honorable Speaker, more importantly, to create millions of jobs. Jobs from engineering, architecture, legal, those in the legal profession, accountants, quantity surveyors, land surveyors, Honorable Speaker, drivers, earth movers, operators, Honorable Speaker, and also to grow our economy in a big way through urbanization. Honorable Speaker, a population of 2,000, 3,000 houses, people coming to be housed in a project of 700 houses, or 1,000 houses that will probably accommodate 3,000, 4,000 people. That population itself is an opportunity for new markets, Honorable Speaker. It is that urbanization that helps economies grow. It is those opportunities that we must look at. I know there is a temptation, Honorable Speaker, to speak to what is popular to the middle class, to speak to what we think we are speaking to the gallery, to those who have access to our TV stations, Honorable Speaker. It is very tempting, Honorable Speaker, to speak to the less than 10% of our population today who today have a pay slip. But let us have the heart to speak for another close to 40 million Kenyans who have no access to job opportunities today. Those job opportunities lie in this bill, Honorable Speaker. Those job opportunities, Honorable Speaker, outweigh the political expediency that we have seen in those who critique this bill, Honorable Speaker. I am happy, Honorable Speaker, 3 weeks ago, I listened to our good friend, the former Prime Minister, Honorable Raila Odinga, contend that indeed in the Azimio manifesto, they had this levy at 1.5%, Honorable Speaker. Contend that it was during his time as Minister for Public Works, Housing and Roads that the housing agenda in this country was conceived. Honorable Speaker, I've also had occasion to listen to President William Ruto say that what bedevils our country is one, corruption, vested interests, especially amongst our leadership, Honorable Speaker, and laziness. Honorable Speaker, especially in leadership. We must thank God that today the leadership in this country neither has vested interests in the running and management of government, that the leadership in this country today is determined, Honorable Speaker, to make the tough choices and make the hard decisions that will change this country for good. Part of that work to changing this country for good in the actualization of this housing agenda. And we are all agreed, Honorable Speaker, including those of us in the opposition. That is why the leader of the opposition, His Excellency Raila Odinga, contends that housing as an agenda is something that this country must actualize, because we are 20 years late. If we are to count from the time Raila Odinga was Minister for Housing, I think it's more than 20 years ago. And that tells you what vested interests in government have done, the disservice they have done to our country, Honorable Speaker. It tells you how late we are in actualizing this agenda. And it tells us the urgency in enacting this bill today, having a new Housing Fund Act, Honorable Speaker, that will create that legal framework to actualize the housing agenda for this great country. Honorable Speaker, with those very many remarks, I beg to move, and I want to urge all of us, Honorable Speaker, as we contribute, as we critique, as we add our ideas to what will enrich this bill, Honorable Speaker, to do it having in mind, Honorable Speaker, the people back in our villages, the young men and women who patronize your offices almost on a daily basis, the young men and women that you all mobilize for political rallies, the young men and women who you see at your shopping centers stretching out their hands to Mheshimiwa. Give them something that they can be proud of. Something that they can be proud that when you are their leaders, honorable members, you give them an agenda that give them opportunities to earn a decent living for themselves, besides providing affordable and good housing for the country and helping our country in urbanization and helping to spur economic development in a manner, Honorable Speaker, that will be unrivaled in our region. Honorable Speaker, with those many remarks, I beg to move, and I want to request the Chair Housing, the Honorable Ngeno, to second, since he was part of the team that I commended for having done a very good job through the extensive public participation. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I move.
Johanna Ngeno.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And first, I want to thank the majority